Hi, JG.
Morning, guys.
Do you think that there's such a thing as this age of accountability for younger people?
Yeah, I think so. It's a difficult topic, but yeah.
I was just mentioning, how do we find the division of the time where you are now responsible? It seems pretty far out there to me.
Moral agency. Yeah, you're not
we were just asking.
Time, right?
We were just asking if Christ died for 2-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
Because 2-year-olds
I got title
sometimes.
status today.
Huh?
You gave me title status again today.
Oh yeah.
Because you missed me.
Honor.
You missed me, and you wanted me to come in and talk to you, huh?
Yeah. So we got a question directly for you. Who establishes the relationship between God and the sinner? Is it God or is it the sinner?
Oh, we know it's God.
And then this alternative question is, does God forgive the sinner before the sinner even asks?
That's a good question.
No, I don't think so.
God does not forgive the sinner until the sinner asks.
Before we start talking, all the previous problems I brought up about the fundamentals of your philosophy, your starting point, are still relevant every day that goes by. It's a problem that's not going to go away. So you're not going to get very far with me. But I'll play for a bit if you want me to. But I'm going to be repeating the same things I brought up before, the issues that have not been solved.
Well, ask yourself this: what if Ace is wrong, and he just doesn't know it? Now what do you do?
I've definitely considered that, Lawrence.
Okay, because he could be wrong.
Yeah. So when you point out to someone that they're in contradiction, or they're poisoning themselves as an illusion, it makes sense for them to explore that and navigate that and say, well, I don't think so. I'd like to know more about why you're framing me that way, or what that is. And I've done that on multiple accounts. It just doesn't.
Well, it may not be the right timing to keep, bringing up a particular subject that you have questions about.
When it comes to someone's fundamental position, the worldview itself,
I don't think
in question. It's not a question of like, I see the shirt as red, you see the shirt as blue. Who's right? Is it purple? This is a fundamental question when there's issues at the core of someone's philosophy that they can't answer, can't give an account for. It's a problem that doesn't go away, and it prohibits just moving forward and skipping past it.
I don't know. I think some might go to the doctor and find out they're colorblind. So,
Right. I'm pointing out the superficial example of, this is not a question of, well, you see red, I see blue, and someone's wrong about the shirt color. It's a fundamental issue. If you're saying you're not responsible for things, you can't proceed in having an argument. You remove the responsibility of the thrust of your argument. You say, oh, I'm not responsible for anything. Now let me argue with you. What am I actually arguing with the human being that's telling me they're not responsible for any behaviors?
Right. But if they in reality are wrong, then your argument is based on what? I mean, you're just arguing to try to convince them that they're wrong?
I'm trying to ask them if they're not responsible for anything. Who or what am I dealing with?
Yeah. And that prevents you from dealing with any other questions.
Yeah, that's the point, right?
Right. You're demanding a resolution in your own mind as to what this belief system is.
I'm demanding a resolution of the opponent's claim.
No. What if
they're not? Look, it's like walking into a situation saying, "Oh, whatever I do, I'm not responsible for." Do you let that person in your home? Do you let that person into your party?
Okay.
I mean, do you? Do you deal with people in your ordinary life that say, guess what, Lawrence? I want to make a business transaction with you. I want to babysit your kids, but I'm not responsible for anything. Is that a person you would actually deal with?
It doesn't sound like it to me, but
Right. That's what I'm dealing with.
So I would say, well, this person sounds odd, and I would go on.
You would allow them into your house, babysit your kids, do business with them, or you'd let them speak?
I would make more rational judgments about that.
You see, though, they're saying they're not responsible for anything across the board.
Yeah.
So whatever they say, they're also not responsible for.
Yeah, but it's got you in a loop, JG.
It doesn't have me in a loop.
I think it does. You can't go on. Can you answer this question?
I think you're missing my point, Lawrence. You're in the loop, or Ace is in the loop. I'm pointing out the loop that you're in, and you want to break out of the loop without solving the loop.
Right, but he can't solve the loop, and neither can you, and neither can I. It's not.
My position is not that the loop is insolvable. My position is that there is a right and wrong. Okay, that we are responsible. Right. You're in the loop, not me. I'm pointing out the loop. Ace keeps trying to do different things to get out of the loop, get granted out of the loop, yet he's still in the loop. It's a fundamental problem. And the only reason I'm coming in here is because, again, Ace puts me in the title because he wants to talk to me, right? The problem has not gone away. Whenever he moves forward, he's taking a behavioral action. He's taking a position while saying he's not responsible for his own position. It's nonsense. It's reductio ad absurdum is what's been happening to him. He's been reduced to absurdity time after time, but he doesn't take other people seriously. What do you want me to do with that?
Press on.
I have. I looked back. There's been like 150 episodes I've appeared on.
Keep pressing on.
Why? He's a 70-year-old man. He's going to listen to me?
Because
who have you known to change Ace's mind, by the way, Lawrence? Quick.
Change his mind?
Quick.
I didn't understand you.
You're stalling.
No, what did you ask?
I purposely asked for a quick answer because there's nobody. Who have you known to change Ace's mind?
Oh, I didn't hear that part.
Oh, I didn't hear you.
You know what? I think Ace has changed over the last few years. And you don't have to mock. I genuinely did not hear. I'm sorry. I'm trying to comprehend everything.
I mean, it's hard for me to trust people who say they're not responsible for anything. I'm trying to figure out who or what I'm dealing with, right?
Yeah. But you don't think it's you who's in the loop of, I didn't get an answer yet, therefore I'm going to hit the same question again for the 99th time?
The loop doesn't get solved, so you're in a loop.
Yeah, but God is still God.
What does that have to do with what we're saying?
Come on. Because
I'm in a loop. I'm in a loop. God is still God. Therefore.
No, God, right. I don't know how to express it. I'm sorry.
Jill makes a good point there in the side chat. Ace did change his position on the Trinity when he had that discussion with Jill. That was a great discussion. Yeah, the next day or so, he just goes right back. Hold on. The next day or so, he just goes right back out of his position. So when you get someone who makes a change or seems to make a change, and then the next day that whole conversation is dismissed, what are you dealing with?
Ace, did you really believe in the Trinity and then stop believing in the Trinity in one day?
Well, Matthew 13 can explain that, JG.
What's that?
Matthew 13 can explain what happened. The parable of the sower.
Remind me.
The birds ate up the seed, right? Stony ground, it couldn't produce much root, so it died. But
Right.
some seed fell in good.
Does God only sow the seed once?
God only sowed the seed once.
Yeah, they. I guess his name is Lawrence. Hello, Lawrence. He said that the birds ate the seed because it was on stony ground. So I'm just asking, would God
I don't
only
think in
sow
the
the seed
parable
once?
I think
I
most
don't think in
farmers
the
sow seeds
parable.
often.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
If
I
it's
don't.
if it's stony soil, you might want to work it. You might want to remove some of
Pull
the
the rocks out.
stones and do it again.
Make a stone wall out of the rocks you pulled out of the soil.
Yeah. And I didn't hear Ace saying that he's not responsible for anything. I'm pretty sure
Oh
he's
yeah, that's
responsible for
something that's
getting
been going
dressed in
on
the
for a while,
morning. And
dude.
you were
If
talking over me.
if
What did
you
you
didn't
say?
hear that today, if you didn't hear that today, that's something that's been going on for a while.
No, I've never heard him say that he's not responsible for putting his clothes on in the morning. He's not responsible for making sure he hits the toilet when he pees. I'm pretty sure he's responsible for those things.
Good, good. Is that right, Ace?
Yeah, man.
Okay, well, where does the responsibility end? You're responsible for pooping and putting on your clothes. That's a good start. Can you give us some other things you're responsible for?
Putting on my socks,
Socks. Okay.
flipping the eggs when they're done on one side.
Okay. Can we move it up? Can we notch it up to you being responsible for?
My own eternity? Oh yeah, I
No,
am
that's
responsible for my own eternity. Yeah, there we
moving
go.
a little too fast. Can you give us a moral
No, this is the
responsibility?
ultimate. This is the question. Am I responsible for my eternity?
He's trying to control the narrative. We're trying to move slowly into something more than flipping the eggs and putting on your socks into, are you responsible for flipping your neighbor off, for cutting people off in traffic, for telling a lie? Are you responsible for those things?
I am responsible for the creation of the universe.
See how he can't answer?
I am solipsistic.
Why don't you tell us what that means?
Only I exist. There is no one else but me.
Mm-hmm. Good one. So you're just playing games.
Hey, Hillary,
Yes.
how do you like the question in white?
Does God forgive the sinner before the? Oh yeah, definitely he does.
Mr. JG said it doesn't happen.
Why would God not be responsible for when he chooses to forgive the sinner?
Ace, you're responsible for putting on your socks. Is that it?
Well, even that has its limits because I'm quite sure that, if I live long enough, I might get, Alzheimer's and forget how to put on my socks. So who's responsible there?
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to project into the future to consider this line of questioning. Are you responsible for more than flipping the eggs, putting on your socks?
Take us
The
where you
seed
want us
fell
to
on
go.
shallow soil.
I mean, I was trying to. Are you, when you're saying that the things that you've done are the things you're going to do that entail a moral proposition, the things you might do to your neighbor, things you might have done to your neighbor you weren't responsible for?
Yes, I am responsible for it all.
All what?
Whatever I did to my neighbor.
Well, how is that your position today when your position in the past has been God is responsible for everything you do, including your sins?
Oh, it's two different conversations, looking at things from two different perspectives.
You have two different perspectives.
Sometimes, and you do too, sometimes.
I mean, a perspective that's outside of your subjective perspective. You have absolute perspective. Is that where you're going?
And you do too, sometimes.
Well, okay, if that's your position that all people do, or I do, or you do, what is absolute perspective? How did you obtain that? Tell us about that.
with a bit of maturity, growing a little older day by day, realizing that what was so god awful important 40 years ago is not so important today.
Yeah, that sounds like subjective perspective still. How did you obtain absolute perspective, and what is it?
The absolute perspective is that all is of God.
That's a statement. I'm asking you how you obtained an absolute perspective and what that
I
entails.
read it in the Bible that all is of God, and God gave me the faith to believe it.
That's how you obtained absolute perspective.
Yeah, God gave me the faith to believe that all is of God.
Okay, so you read something and you believed it, and that gave you absolute perspective that you float in and out or back and forth to subjective perspective.
How is it that you don't believe that all is of
You see,
God?
I can't get through the line of questioning because you don't know how to answer these claims you're making. You're holding to this position that you can't actually account for.
You're right. So lead me down the primrose path of
I don't want to lead you. I don't want to lead you down a primrose path. It's the same problem that I've been dealing with.
I need the primrose path. Lead me, baby.
Well, I was trying to with asking what you're responsible for.
So the only answer could be everything, some things, or nothing. Where do I go?
I mean, we're trying to baby step you into assuming responsibility for
Okay,
your
I'll
actions.
assume responsibility for some things. Help me. Should I assume responsibility for everything or just some things?
Well, that's sort of what I'm asking you. You assume responsibility for flipping your eggs and putting on your socks, but when we ask about flipping off your neighbor, it gets kind of shady.
All right, I'm responsible for flipping off my neighbor, but am I responsible for my eternity?
You're responsible for flipping off your neighbor. Good. So now you're responsible for your sins.
Am I responsible for my eternity?
Ace, you can't do this if you're just going to warp into eternity. You know what I mean?
Why not?
It's too extreme because we have to baby
It
step
is
this
not
conversation.
extreme. It is the fundamental question of the day.
It's where you
Who
want to
establishes the relationship between God and the
because
sinner?
Ace, it's where you want to go because you realize that the next questions that are coming are: you're responsible for flipping off your neighbor, you're responsible for stealing from your neighbor. Those would be transgressions. Then you'd have to say you're responsible for your sins, which goes against your previous position. You will have to change your position today. Is that something you want to do?
It's what you're doing. You're saying that the sinner
Ace,
establishes the
stay with it,
relationship.
dude. Stay with it. Don't bounce it over to that's what you're doing. I've laid it out for you. If you're going to flip off your neighbor and be responsible for it, it follows that you hold on. It follows you. Ace, there's no way out of this. So just take it.
So from your
if you flip off your neighbor, if you steal from your neighbor, then it follows you'd be responsible for that as well. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now you're responsible for the transgression, for the sin. Now your position would have to change. Your entire fundamental universalist position would need to change if that's what you really believed. So what's it going to be?
Okay. So fuck universalism. Let's burn everybody in hell who flips off their neighbor.
Don't go into some sort of emotional mode.
You're doing it. You're leading me down the primrose path of believing that God does not establish the relationship between God and
it doesn't follow. What you just said doesn't follow from what I'm doing. I'm simply getting you from socks to flipping eggs to flipping off the neighbor to stealing from your neighbor. That's all we've done. And you realize that your position is in jeopardy, right?
No, I don't realize that. Keep going.
Okay, so you don't realize it.
So what if I flip off my neighbor or steal from my neighbor? The question is,
it's not, no, we're not saying so what. We're not saying so what. We're saying, are you responsible? Now you said yes. So your whole position has changed. It's a fundamental question. If you were to actually believe what you were saying, if you're being honest, now your position would change in an honest conversation.
Really?
I don't know what else you want me to do.
How about the hokey pokey? Can you do that?
My work here is done. I'll let someone else talk.
I just tuned in. What are we discussing? Is it free will? Is it or something?
That's it. Yeah, we're discussing free will and human responsibility, because God wants nothing to do with you if you don't behave correctly.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Well, what a thing when it comes to salvation, we haven't got a choice. That is of God. Simple as that. That is not of ourselves. That is all to do with God when it comes to salvation. That is God's number one priority, to get his creation saved, if you like.
JG's position seems to be that the pot tells the potter whether or not it's saved.
Yeah, that's right. The potter has a choice. He's in control. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, Romans 11:32 spells it out, doesn't it? You know, for his creation was handed over to unbelief. That's not of our. We didn't do that. That was God who was subjecting his creation for that. That was beyond our will. That was all of God. So therefore, it's God's responsibility to rescue his creation, because God is the ultimate justifier. You know, to put someone in a state of unbelief, it's then their responsibility to take them out of that state of unbelief to a state of belief. That is all of God. That is not of ourselves. And the scripture is very clear about that. That's it. And when you go into what is God's will, well, you understand what God's will. He's working all things out to the counsel of his will. Ephesians 1:11. What does God want? 1 Timothy 2:4. He will have all men to be saved and to come to the knowledge of the truth. And that's from your King James Bible.
No, that's not from the Bible.
Is anybody going to recognize that Ace just changed his position from no responsibility to having responsibility today? I mean, does that strike anyone as odd?
I'm realizing some seeds fell among thorns. When Andy started speaking, I'm realizing that. Some seeds fell
Hello, Jill. I hope you're well. You can't, Jill, at the end of the day, you're not my authority. The Bible is. I make that completely clear if I haven't already made it clear enough in the past. You got no authority over me, Jill. You can blaspheme and foul-mouth me and try and make other people believe lies about me.
So let's go to the passage then. By the way, let's go to the passage. Okay, enough of the rebel rousing. Let's go to the passage. What passage did you cite?
Silences you, Jill.
What passage did you just cite? Let's go to the text.
Romans 11:32 is one. You can go there.
Was that the one you just cited?
Yep.
Yes, he cited
Romans
11:32 and also Ephesians 1:11.
Yeah.
That's okay. So this isn't speaking about the remnant of Israel. But okay. All right. So Romans 11:32.
Yeah, this is speaking about mankind, not just Israel. This is about all of mankind. Bound up the all, not just some.
Who is this referring to?
All right, this is all. He's bound up all.
Right. According to the context in the passage, who is the all?
Everyone, all people.
No, it's not.
I mean, are you not disobedient? Jill, are you obedient then? Are you obedient to God? Have you always been obedient to God? Because if not, then this passage here is referring to you as well as myself.
This is referring to the Jewish people, his people.
So
read verse 1.
Then, okay, from the context you're saying then, it's only the Jewish people were disobedient. Everybody else was obedient. Is that right?
This is referring to those who are in. Are you going to let me answer? This is referring to the Jews who are disobedient.
You're trying to twist this now.
Are you going to talk over me because you're afraid?
No, because
This is
it's pathetic
referring
what
to,
you're
according
about to
to.
say.
Okay, go ahead and
What
speak.
you're
Go ahead and
about to
speak,
say
and I'll
is
let you
pathetic
speak.
and
I'll let you
unbiblical.
speak, and then
We
I'll
are
respond.
all.
And let's see if you shut up long enough to hear the response. Go ahead.
Go on.
Okay, this verse is referring to verse 1. Those who are the seed of Abraham, his people. Paul is asking a question: has he cast away his people? The answer is no. He has not cast away the people which he foreknew. So that is the all. Those who he foreknew. There is a remnant of Israel. There is a remnant of Jamaica. There is a remnant of all nation, tribes, and tongues. That's what the context demands you define the all as in that passage in verse 32. So why do you ignore the context and decide you're going to define all based on your own presupposition?
Right.
Why do you do that?
Well, one of the reasons why I go to it is because, once again, we can go to the Greek text. We can understand what the word all actually means.
The word all means all.
Word all. If you click on that word all, it goes to
all.
The Greek word. It goes to the Greek word. It goes to the Greek word pas, which means
all.
It
means all.
It doesn't go to the word many.
Why do you answer my question?
It doesn't go to the word. It doesn't go to the word many. Okay.
I didn't say many. It says all.
All the word.
So why do you ignore the context? Why do you ignore the context which tells you who the all are?
All the word few, which is the Greek word oligos. Okay. Therefore, we can decipher from the original text that the word all is indeed all people, because
it is not. The context defines how you determine the definition here. Let the context speak. A word without a context becomes a pretext for whatever you want the word to mean. If I said I ate all the grapes, I'm not referring to the grapes in Italy. Okay, the context determines what the all, whether or not what the all includes. Okay, the all here includes the seed of Abraham, those people who are God's people, and Paul is saying those people which he foreknew, and God is saying all of them will be saved. Show me in the text where all here is all inclusive, meaning everyone who's ever lived. Go ahead.
What was the promise from God to Abraham? I will make you.
We're in Romans 11, ladies and gentlemen.
So if we go by your understanding, then, Jill, is
Romans
that
11.
It's only Israel who are disobedient. They were handed over to disobedience, but everyone else apart from Israel was perfectly fine. We're all in obedience with God. Is that what you're saying? Because as far as I'm aware, that there's no person, no, not one, is obedient to God who seeketh after God.
Okay, let's keep reading. Let's read verse 4, because you're not going to deal with the text. You're going to try to deflect. Let's read verse 4. Paul is telling you who the elect are from God's own mouth. But what saith the answer of God unto him? I have reserved to myself 7,000 men. Does it say all men? Who have not bowed the knee to the image of Baal. These are the ones who have stayed faithful to God. Those are the ones, all of them, they will be saved. Why is it mentioning only 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee, that have been reserved? If your interpretation is correct, why do you have verse 4 in there?
Verse 4. Well, I was looking at Romans 3:23 for all of sin.
No. We're in Romans 11, sir. Don't try to run to Romans 3 now.
That's where I'm going. No, you just
no. We're in Romans 11. You brought up Romans 11, and then when I press you on the context of Romans 11, you run to Romans 3. Well, I could do the same thing with Romans 3.
Consistent.
I could do the same thing. You're inconsistent. Inconsistency is a sign of a failed worldview.